when you see 5 names on the screenplay and whatever dialogues, blah, and you're going, oh my God, this is going to be a mess. It's not as bad as all that, but we have 5 people, 2 separate people to do dialogue, just dialogue, and based on a play by. So the play this is based on is from 1919, and this film is 1933, so kind of an old-fashioned plot. And yeah, it is. This film is part of a set of films. They're not all together or anything like that, but just this set of Hollywood was making these kind of movies, and then we're making them like popcorn, like try to get a new one every week. So that's not possible, but you try. And they had like a set of people to do that, and they used James Cagney in an early one in Footlight Parade, but then he moved on to something else, and then you have the people who are left there, which was Joan Blondell and Ruby Keeler and Dick Powell, and Ruby Keeler can dance, and Dick Powell can sing, and Joan Blondell can act. But Ruby Keeler can't act. She can... Okay, if you want her to, she can sing, but I wouldn't buy the record. Let me put it like this. I wouldn't buy a record with her on it. Dick Powell, he does an okay sing. I've never seen him dance, so I don't think he can. And Joan Blondell, acting is great, but I've heard her sing. It's bad. And dance... ballroom, nothing special. She doesn't have any chops in that regard. So you have these people to do a film together, and yeah. So Dick Powell sings. Ruby Keeler, I'm not sure what she does in this one. She looks innocent and pretty at Dick Powell. So okay, basically that's what her job is. Look innocent and pretty at Dick Powell, who's crooning a lovely, somewhat boring love song. So Joan Blondell and Aline McCannon, who I've never seen in anything else, I think, and as more talent who can act, but also can't sing and dance, or at least she doesn't. So I'm assuming that she can't. She's fun though. She's like whereas Blondell, in most of the other ones, she plays the sassy friend who does the sassy things. Joan, in this case, she plays the lead, basically, the romantic female lead in this. And Aline plays the sassy friend who has the somewhat questionable plans and makes the very on-the-nose remarks. So that's unusual to watch, because I love Joan Blondell in any way or form, but she can play the lead, and this time she does, and she's really good. With her, I have found in all her roles is that she always has chemistry with everyone. I've never seen anyone have that with like everyone, like every leading man she has with her, she has chemistry with them. Every female, she has like the camaraderie, the best friend chemistry when the role requires it. But I've rarely seen that person that does it every single time. Even the most unlikely co-stars, she has chemistry with them. And that's actually what saves this movie so much, is the chemistry she has with the other actor who is there, who is in a musical picture and can't sing or dance. But he can act. So they have him, Warren Williams, play the guy. And he's a pretty unlikely fellow, because he is a little bit older. He's sort of your banker type, but sort of the thin banker type. And you sort of go, what? A lot of these people are going, what are they even doing in a movie like this? Because this is about young people and dancing, isn't it? dancing and singing. Isn't it? So I think they got in this play from 1919, to give Joan Blondell and Warren Williams something to do. And they do it very well. So an old-fashioned plot, which is kind of shitty. A plot is pretty shitty. Of course, this is one of those musical pictures. As in musical picture, as in we're putting on a musical and we have some numbers in it, but it's not musical in a traditional form. They're not just start singing for no reason. They always sing.
Had that been invented yet for the movies? The movie musical?
No. You're too early for this. This is 1933. So there's Golddiggers of 1933 is this title of this one. It is called that because there was one in 1929, but it's A, not related to this, and B, it's lost. So there's like one scene left of some of the dancing, so that's lost. But it's also this play. And then there's, from this group, there is one Golddiggers of 1935 and a Golddiggers of 1937. And as you progress, because I did watch them, you get to the last one is a full musical where people start singing in for no reason. So this is your moment. Somewhere between 1933 and 1937 it happened. But this is just a picture that's about putting on a musical show, and they show you some of the musical numbers. The shitty part of the plots is, and I think that's mostly from the play from 1919, a rich gentleman has fallen in love with a showgirl, and the rich gentleman's brother, who is really in charge of the fortune, says, yeah, I don't want that. So this brother comes and goes check out this young lady. And I think the original play, he tries to convince the lady that she's not worthy, and he falls in love with herself and all that kind of stuff. Here it goes a little differently, because the gentleman is Dick Powell, of course, by name of, let me check, Brad. And the lady is Ruby Keeler, by name of Polly. But when the brother, by name of J. Lawrence, comes to Miss Polly's house to talk to Miss Polly, he happens to run into Joan Blondell's character, who is Carol, and he starts talking and thinks that she's Polly. She doesn't get the word in. She doesn't get a chance to say, hey, you know what, I'm not Polly. Because he's starting to say some really unkind things about showgirls and stuff like that she sort of goes after a while from, and she decides to take him for a ride. Because, yeah, what he said was not very nice. So it's and so they do a dance around each other for a while, both cheating each other. It's not my favorite kind of plot, but because they're cheating each other, and it's not one person just cheating the other, but it's a both way kind of thing, and he did say some really unkind things. It kind of works. It's still not my favorite plot, you know. It is also a pre-code movie. This is 1933. It is pre-code, to the point that the entire plot culminates in a moment where he was getting a little, and at first she's seeing it happen, but she kept giving him more, and I thought, okay, she's seeing that he is going down, but she didn't, and suddenly he just declared his love to her, and then he's flat out on the couch, like zonked out, goney, and she sort of goes, what? And then the sassy friend walks in and says, I have a good idea with this. And they bundle him off into bed. I think the sassy friend strips him. This is off stage, but pre-code off stage, but still. Strips him, sticks him in her bed. Then they go sleep in the other bed. She doesn't join him in the bed. I mean, now she would, but not then. And then the next morning he wakes up. and he's like confused, and the sassy friend tells him, Carol, Joan character, is not there because she's falling in love with this guy and she doesn't want to take him for a ride anymore, but this is what they're doing. So the sassy friend cons the guy out of $10,000. And I looked it up. And $10,000 then is $250,000 now. It's a lot of money. He cons the guy out of a check, and he sort of, with a big hangover, leaves. But Carol was starting to fall in love with this guy. He's a bit of an idiot, but she's also a bit of an idiot. So they're kind of... if this was a real relationship, I would say, okay, you guys need to work on some. This is not gonna. It's gonna take some work to get this done. But they're both somewhat rough characters, and if they are able to take as good as they can give, they should be able to get on with each other. And that she has to first decide that she actually wants him. He has sort of decided that he wants her, but now he just got conned out of a lot of money, and he sort of feels it a little bit. So they have to make up. They do make up in the end. But the scene where he comes back to her and says, I still want you. I don't want my brother to marry that other girl, but I want you. And then she tells him, I didn't cash that check. I framed it. It's on the wall. And that's a really good speech. That's worth her speech is whatever the entire plot line of him and her. It's really good. It's that the play with a little bit extra, because I think in the play there was no confusion about who she wants, and because there's a confusion about is she Polly, is she Carol, it works better. It's the best bit of the movie, and unfortunately, Warren Williams doesn't show up until literally halfway into the movie. The first half is pretty boring. And it is 1933, and they're coming from the silent age when they was used to do like reels. A reel would be like 10 minutes of footage, and it would have a little bit of story in it. And a film would be like 5 reels, so 5 little stories. And then they changed that to, okay, but we should have it like interspersed. So you start 5 stories and you do it over the entire thing. You do like 5 stories. And that's the way that a year earlier they did Footlight Parade. And now it is like 2 stories. They have reduced it to two stories. The story of putting on the play, which is like the first part of it, and funding it, and all about the depression and the girls trying to get into a play. All of that is first half of the play, and then when the brother shows up to try and put a damper on things, then you get the second part of the play of the story. So you have a 2-story thing, and it works really well as such. I think what the thing is suffering from, and that's pretty much going to be across the board for anything that's made in 1933, is that they have to have the output of how many movies they have to put out every year is so high. They don't have time to go back. They don't have time to go fix something. If they started a storyline that they have filmed but they can't finish, then it still goes in there. So you get some extraneous gunk in there. One of the things that they did since the year before, when they did Footlight Parade, which is kind of the first, not quite, but the idea of having a director to just do the theater stuff, the actual performance, is a different director than who does the actual acting, meaning that this director has time to actually put that together. Drawback is that basically these numbers have nothing to do with the actual story, other than a very general theme, which was in this case depression. because 1933, they are smack dab in the middle of depression with absolutely no view of it ever letting up. It is also under Prohibition.
What about all the drinking?
The drinking, because it is under Prohibition, is reduced to the moment they can actually celebrate because there is money for the play. A man shows up with a fiddle case full of bottles of booze. They drink, and then J. Lawrence gets completely soused. I have to say, these pre-code movies, there are more drunken scenes in pre-code movies in America, not English movies, but American movies, than there are afterwards, after the Prohibition has ended. And I think they're trying to, I don't know what they're trying to do with that. But he gets. I really liked Warren Williams, who I've seen I like very few times, and he died not. He didn't become very old, so he died pretty young. So, he is a really good actor, really good actor. And the way the very simple way of how he slowly becomes drunk over the evening. They go out with the girls, and he very slowly gets drunker and drunker. But he does it without going, ooh, you know. He does it very subtly in a way that she could have missed it. I was seeing it, but and I thought she had too, but she could have missed it. And then on wink, all of a sudden he goes down.
And that could also be a commentary on the silent drinker in relationships, when one partner doesn't realize it until something happens.
Yeah.
But somebody can sneak around drinking for years, effectively.
Yeah. Warren Williams is a really good actor. He, like Joan Blondell, they between them, they make whatever other people cannot act, and there's a lot of them in there who can't, but that's okay. They can do the singing, the dancing, and the crooning and stuff like that, and they can do the heavy lifting, basically, for the drama side of it. The other two, I'm going to talk about the other two. I did watch them because I wanted to see them. The Golddiggers of 35 and the Golddiggers of 37. 35 does not have Joan Blondell in it or any strong actor, and it's just fluff. It's just fluff. There's just nothing to it. And the one in 37, Joan Blondell is back, but she does not have a strong co-star in Dick Powell. Like I said, he's a great crooner, and he can do soft very nice, but he's not a very strong co-star. So they do go back to another play. I don't like the premise of that play, but because the film is in 1937, it is that much better in how filming works. Because the difference as you go through the years until 1940, from the moment they start doing talkies to roughly 1940, they have to work at how do I make talkies. And in 1933, they're still working on it. In 1937, they've pretty much got it sussed. And by the time you get to 1940, like everybody can act. And that's in 1937, not necessarily so. But still, it is a movie. That one is, like I said, that's a musical. But I think this one, that's why I thought about it. Should I put them all together and do them all together? But the other, they're not good. This one's the better one. Even though it's the earlier one and it has more technical problems in how to make movies, I think this is the classic of the three. This is the best one.
Would you credit the actors?
Yes.
For that, the ones who do have the actor chops?
Yes. Because you have like the people come to this thing to listen to Dick Powell croon, which is for me kind of okay. Bing did it better. But this is before Bing, so yeah.
Well, Bing was on the radio at this time.
Yeah, but he was not. So Dick Powell is doing what Bing does later, like 10 years later. Bing is doing this, and Ruby Keeler. she doesn't even get she for a girl whose jobs is dancing, she doesn't dance in this thing. And I think and that is a question of they have too many movies to do. She can do only so many dance routines per year, and she probably did it in some of the other movies. And so here she just sits next to Dick Powell and looks at him adoringly. And she wears pretty dress. Okay, fair enough. That's what she's there for.
That's very much pre-second feminist wave and all of that. It's very much, I must make the fantastic male star shine, and that is my role here.
Yeah, and we actually just saw a 1950s, I think that was probably officially called a rom-com, about, and almost all of the 1950s rom-coms are about gals trying to find guys. And while in the end these gals also get guys, they're doing it in a completely different way. And the Carol character is absolutely not anybody's looking for a guy, and they are looking for jobs. This is the Depression. They are all dancers, and they have some sort of like drugstore saleswoman. One of them had a job as in a drugstore being a saleswoman, and then she had the one pretty dress, and then they took the pretty dress pretty quickly off her because they needed it for another job interview for one of the other girls. So they kept passing the thing around because they were looking for jobs. These girls are looking for jobs. And then the men are sort of incidental. The rich guy happened to be across the street from them. He was also a piano player. He composer. So that's how he ended up at the play, because he's a composer. The money was incidental. They actually first didn't believe that he has any money because nobody has any money because Depression. But he said he did, and then he shows up with money, and they sort of go, "Oh my God, are you sure? Okay, did he steal it?" There was a subplot going on. Is he a bank robber? and he brings accidentally his brother in, who accidentally brings in the lawyer, an older guy, and all these gentlemen get some of these ladies, but it's incidental. They're not looking for. It's not on how do I marry a rich dude. This is how do I get a job? How do I eat tomorrow?
So I call that is feministic, because the lives of these women are actually. This is a commentary on their economic lives, and they are taking responsibility for their own economic lives. And
yes.
They're finding jobs. They're not being married off at 18. They are young adults. They are 20-somethings, and they're out there, and their main focus is get the job, get the better job, get more jobs.
Yes. And they want the job in the entertainment industry because that's the premise. Basically, that's the premise of the film, of the entire film series, is that it always has to do something to do with theater, so you can put in the performances. But yes, it is about, but it's first feminist wave, not second. So you end up with husbands again.
Well, they're also the lost generation. So there's actually a lack of guys. So some of these young women have seen that their older sisters are not getting any guys, and they might as well just go out and get themselves a job. So you get this sassy generation, you know, the roaring 20s followed by this generation. The roaring 20s is over, and there are no guys of our age. Now what do we do? Actually, in 33 there should be guys of their age.
They're not complaining about a lack of guys at all. They are complaining about a lack of funds and a lack of money for the job, but also a lack of money to put on the big play, because that's the big money comes in. The rich guy hands over. The producer is actually looking for $75,000, but he very quickly goes down to about 15, and then the rich guy says, they didn't know he was rich yet, says, "Oh, I have that. I'll come bring it to you tomorrow," and then everybody said sure, and then they waited next day in the hope that he did, and he did. So, but 15,000, 10,000 is already $250,000, so this is like 1/3 of a million. But that's how much theater stuff costs now. When you put on something on Broadway with maybe with some rollerblades and some special effects and stuff like that, it costs $1 million, you know. So how a third of a million? It's peanuts almost now. So, but it is not jump change for somebody to hand over, you know. To our sensibilities, this thing is pretty tame in the, it is pre-code kind of way. Yeah, they undress him, but it's like off stage and lots of innuendo. Even when he comes in to call Polly names for being a dancer, these are very tame names. I mean, I would rate this film as a PG film. Just not even PG-13, just PG. It's that tame. Nothing happens. Nothing is seen. They do mention booze and they mention speakeasy. And they drink. Because it's 1933, the dresses, it's just still in the beautiful stage of the fashion. It's not flapper, because that's 1927 was really the high tide of flapper, but it's morphing to the 1930s style, but it's very geometric and stripes and checkers and so many sequins. Beautiful. And I actually had a pretty good print to look at, and then you can see the dresses are so beautiful. I want some of the dresses, especially the Trixie character, Aline, played by Aline McCannon. She has these geometric, because she has sort of a angular face. She's tall herself, and then she has an angular face, and they give her like geometric stuff in this direction. Oh, so good. And you can see them wear the fashion, because when you have like a picture or a drawing, stand still. But now she twirls around, she does things, and you can see how it's worn, how it flows, and so good. There's no actual fashion parade in this, but there's we have 4 girls who have at least 3 outfits each to try on, so you get lots of fashion. And then there's costumes, of course, but the costumes are costumes, and they're very weird. So the musical numbers are separate from anything else, and with the musical numbers seems to come a very new talent, Ginger Rogers. She doesn't have a big role yet, because I think literally she's there for this, for singing one song and doing some dancing, and she has a couple of lines, but they sort of shoehorn her in. She doesn't have a big part. So the first one she sings is In the Money, when opening number. That one gets interrupted because the show closes almost before it opens. They're still rehearsing and the show already closes, which is depression hitting. The interesting thing about it when I saw it for the first time is that in the middle of it, she starts singing in really weird English, and it turns out it's what they call pig Latin, and I'd never heard of it before, and it's really weird. And I'll put something on about it. I have no idea why it even exists, and I have no idea why it's in this movie. It has absolutely zero reference to anything else. She just starts doing the chorus again in pig Latin. Why? I don't know. She does it very prettily, and she always has a great smile. I mean, that's what Ginger Rogers is known for the dancing and a great smile. So great. Second number is just Dick Powell singing alone, something forgettable. Next number after that is Petting in the Park. Ruby Keeler, she sings and dances with Dick Powell, and sort of sways. They don't dance very much. Traditionally in one of these things, because you want your actor, to have lines, but also to be in the song or the dance. And usually they're doing something other than what you would be doing in song and dance. They do like a weird plot thing where the lead singer that was scheduled to go on to the performance suddenly falls ill. He gets lumbago this time, and then he can't move. Also, this young lead was already like 20 years too old. So the person who actually wrote the tunes, the Dick Powell character, now has to just jump on stage and do it anyway. So by way of plot, he's just subbed into it. And suddenly he's doing the singing with Ruby Keeler, where he said before he wasn't going to do it. So it is like a trope. So many of versions do that. The Footlight Parade did the same thing with the James Cagney character, who was really the producer, but then the main dancer was main for the last number was suddenly too drunk to do, and then he had to go in and do the singing and the dancing. It's kind of, it's a trope. It's a little bit an icky trope, but
would this have been a very early usage of it?
Yes.
So that's legit.
Yeah. They did stop using this one pretty soon after this because it got a little tropey. All except for when Dick Powell is singing alone. All these numbers are directed by Busby Berkley. You get the whole staged performance with all kinds of props and lights and overhead pictures and stuff like that. In Patton in the Park, you get a pan, basically, of people sitting in the park, but he chose very diverse couples, like a black couple, like an old couple, like a young couple, like a
pre-code,
Asian couple. Yes, everything's there.
What?
And the shot ends up on a baby, and this baby is baby sized, but he's not a baby. He is an actor who was, at the time I looked it up, at the time he was 9 years old, but he had dwarfism. Billy Barty, who did his entire career because he never grew taller than like meter and meter 20, something like that, and he always. Because you're smaller, you can still play something, but you can pretend you're a child. So he's pretending to be baby, but he's being very naughty and doing a little bit older than baby could do. But he's still baby-sized. So it's kind of weird. I think he's also in Footlight Parade. He's in one of the others as well. And I'm sure... He lasted a long time. He died in 2000, so he became 75 years old. That's pretty good for somebody with a problem like dwarfism. That's pretty good going. And he was in entertainment business entire time of his life. He founded the Little People of America Club in 1957. I looked at it. That was So it was worth mentioning. And you see him, he's usually not even billed, but we know on IMDb, we know who he is. But if you see him, if a little boy anywhere from like 1 year old, but he's doing much too much for being a 1 year old, that's probably him. Fourth item is the Shadow Waltz, and that is usually the one that they show everywhere. It's the one with the violins in the dark and with lights on the violins. And it's kind of for me it's kind of forgettable. I mean, it's pretty enough, but it's forgettable. And then almost, because now they're coming to the end of the movie and they keep performing in one after the other, and the very last song is the one thing that I think, this is absolutely what you should even watch it separately. It is gorgeous. It is called The Forgotten Man. And they have the Joan start the song. It's kind of a bluesy kind of song, but because Joan really does not sing, she speaks the lines very beautifully, and then they break out into song. But you can see it's somebody else, and then later they come back to her, and because people remember that last bit when they come back to her, and then she playbacks to the sound of the other lady, but she playbacks it, and people keep forgetting that it's not her singing, it's the other girl singing, who was black, by the way. And then they show her, and but Joan really cannot sing. I've heard her sing in something else, and yeah, no.
But they actively showed the black singer.
Yeah.
So, if you watch the movie, there's no question.
Yes, but I think the problem is that they didn't very strongly point it out. They showed it, but they didn't strongly point it out. So it's an understandable. It's a mistake that you can make.
Do you feel like maybe this was all they could do to push the at least the fact that the black singer wasn't allowed to sing the song forward to the audience? There may have been a cap on, what they were allowed to do.
I don't think so. I think that's a problem with Busby Berkley, is that the end result and the prettiness of the end result topped everything for him. So politics, he don't care. He wanted the look of Joan Blondell singing with that voice, even though it's not hers. Because the look, it's a beautiful look. And the message of the song, the Forgotten Man, it's not about Joan, it's not about any woman, it's not about people of color, it's about people who were soldiers in World War I. Like the director was. He was a soldier in World War I. And everyone who's been in World War I had some sort of PTSD out of it, shell shock or some sort of trauma out of it, because it was a mess and it was not dealt with in any way, shape or form. And so this is him dealing with it. And Joan Blondell is just an instrument to show emotion for that, and she does that very well with the way she presents the text first spoken and then the way she playbacks it afterward in conjunction with the singer, with that voice and the emotion. But it is about the men who came back from World War I, who came back to jobs that were gone, who came back to trauma, who brought back trauma, and that was not dealt with. They self-medicate with booze, and then there are no jobs anyway, and then depression, the Great Depression hits, and then there are absolutely no jobs anyway. So this song encapsulates all that. It cannot give any solutions to the problems. It can just state them. The solo was by one Etta Moten. I assume she was a recording artist of the time, and you do see her, so that is something. The Wikipedia talked about how Busby Berkley got to this, other than his personal history, but he was inspired by the 1932 in May. There was a Veterans March in Washington D.C. and FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, held a speech, and he was apparently very impressed. So, in which he said "Forgotten Man." So it was his idea to. They basically wrote the song for this, which is not always happens with songs, and some of them are very generic. But this one, yeah, it's purposely written to be a manifesto for the men forgotten in World War I and after.
I love that they put a woman's point of view in the song, and that it's the female saying, "My man."
Remember my forgotten man.
Because there's the emotion.
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't sound like there's enough emotion in saying, "Oh, look at that man. See how downtrodden. See his history. See what happened to him." The moment a woman says, "My man," he's not just a single entity roaming around the world needing to take care of himself. He's part of my family. He's part of my... I have children with him. He has parents. It's my man. So it's not just a wailing for him, but also for everyone that is in his life.
Yeah.
Everyone's affected.
And I think in the film they would have had problems finding the right person to personify it if you went for a male. So I don't think Dick Powell is... I'd have to look up if he was in World War I. Not many of the Americans were, so he might not have been. But William Warren was, because I did look him up. He was in World War I. He was part of that, and so they could have had him as a linchpin for this as well. But this works even better because she can be the observer of watching this man fall apart. And it is that early in feminism is that with him, her life falls apart. And so it's a non-feminist version. It's more of a male emancipation thing than it is a female emancipation thing, even though a girl is singing it. It's not about her. It's about men. But the surprising thing about it, and it was the same thing with Footlight Parade, that you get into this thing that is sort of about nothing. The entire film series is a fluffy thing about putting on a show and showing pretty girls and then maybe finding love, and then all of a sudden you get bang, one of these thrown at you. It's nice that there is room for this. There were World War I movies. I haven't seen many of them yet, but they were there and they were pretty dire. But then you would have like an hour and a half of dire, whereas this is fluffy, and then suddenly bang, something serious. They also end on it because straight after that it's over. I mean, you're done. You want to go home after this. And when they were making it, they were sort of... At first it was supposed to be in the middle of the show, and then people said, no, this is a show ender. After that you want to go home. This is both a showstopper and a show ender, you know. Everybody should be happy in the story and then do this thing and then go home. With a political message, because this is a strongly political message. For a fluffy movie, a strong political message. Weird. Good, but weird. Worth seeing for that scene, for the Joan and Warren subplots, but not for the rest. It's 1933, so. And that is my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.